This guy sucks. All he does is mention Metal Gear. I'm sick of hearing these videos. They've all the same. Has Rob only played 7 games in his entire life? Or is that just as far as he can count? Ungrateful little... Every week I spend ages looking through my collection, thinking of new stuff to talk about, and this is the thanks I get.
I've told you a million times, you need to shake it up a bit.
Fine. I'll make a list no one can relate to then, because it'll be full of games no one's played. Here are 7 cult video game classics you've probably never played. Also known as 7 video games I've never put in a Friday feature before, except 2, one of which is our first entry, The Legend of Dragoon. For those in the know, this PS1 RPG had to random battle it out with Final Fantasy for gamers' attention. And don't forget, when Dragoon came out in the year 2000, Final Fantasy was in the middle of being the best it ever was. So the fact the adventures of Dart, Rose, Lavitz, Shana and co are so fondly remembered by those who did play it goes some way to explaining why The Legend of Dragoon makes this list. It had one of those stories that, as a newly inaugurated Tolkienite who'd spent his last 2 summers locked away playing JRPGs and reading the Silmarillion, I just couldn't get enough of. Unlikely hero from Leafy Village is thrown into a brutal war, finds out he's not so unlikely and oh my god can turn into a bloody dragon thing, then finds out the war is actually nothing compared to the impending magic apocalypse headed by a madman with silver hair and guest starring a mysterious entity known only as the Black Monster. It was like when I drew my own fantasy world maps when I was 13 and came up with fresh story ideas involving wizards and trolls, all set in places called things like Numaria. Except you could play this piece of fantasy fan service, a game that simultaneously paid homage to the genre greats while in some respects surpassing them. For instance, there were additions, basically character-specific combo attacks that required actual dexterous skill to perform, as opposed to the press this button to make the animation do all the work approach of other RPGs. The Legend of Dragoon was the absolute best, an 80-hour RPG behemoth across 4 discs that you probably never played. Shame. Our second entry is Catherine, a wonderfully weird PS3 game about choice and relationships that Dave never played because, well, look at this.
So it's either Catherine, this thing about choice and relationships, and it's got this bloke in his underpants solving puzzles, or it's Punch the Bad Man 5.
Punch the Bad Man 5.
Yeah.
No, Dave, not Punch the Bad Man 5. That's not even a real game. I made it up to illustrate how easy it can be to settle for the familiar while overlooking something fresh and amazing. Case in point, Catherine on PS3. You play as Vincent Brooks, a man who develops cold feet and a susceptibility to block-based nightmares when his girlfriend, Catherine with a K, starts talking about commitment and marriage. It's then Vincent meets Catherine with a C, a young lady with whom he begins an affair. The rest is up to you. The moral choices are yours to make, the relationships yours to manage, and the increasingly difficult yet brilliantly symbolic guilt-fueled block puzzles yours to solve. It's as refreshingly strange and emotionally engrossing as you'd expect from Atlas, the team behind the Persona series, you know, those cult classics you definitely have played, and nails the random frenzied panic of nightmares born from your own paranoia. Also, those puzzles are hard, just like the moral weight behind the decisions they represent.
Congratulations, you have reached level 47 of Punch the Bad Man 5.
Our next entry is a Guinness World Record holder. Deadly Premonition is officially the most critically polarising survival horror game, a fact that's boosted its cult status to such a degree that you've definitely heard of Deadly Premonition, even if you haven't taken the plunge and played it. And you really should. Describing Deadly Premonition is rather difficult. It's a bit like Twin Peaks, it's a bit like Resident Evil, and it's a bit like nothing else you've played ever. The story follows FBI agent York as he investigates a murder in the rural town of Greenvale, all the while talking to an imaginary friend called Zach and receiving premonitions, possibly deadly ones, yes, from his coffee. There's nothing actually in there. Budget cuts. You get to travel around an open world, you fight creepy backwards-facing undead things with guns and lead pipes, and you can only save the game at specific points. Classic survival horror. But here's a list of things that elevate Deadly Premonition to ultimate Marmite status. York receives bonus rewards for completing missions while clean. You can wash your clothes and shave. The cars in the game can run out of petrol and you have to pay with in-game money to refill them. York gets tired and hungry, so you have to regularly feed him and let him go to sleep. An in-game clock forces you to complete all outstanding tasks by a certain time, and did I mention you have to wash your clothes?
I like this York character, Robert.
Here we go.
Maybe he'll inspire you to clean your clothes and shave.
Well, I like my beard, actually. Do you not think?
It's a scruffy mess. And how long have you been wearing that t-shirt?
A couple of days.
Oh, disgusting.
Next up, it's Vanquish, that game Platinum made that wasn't Bayonetta or Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, but was every bit as fast and brilliant. In it, you played Sam Gideon, a man with a special suit that lets him kill bad guys really, really quickly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2. The best thing about Sam's augmented reaction suit was that it enabled him to travel everywhere by knee slide, like some kind of rocket-powered 7-year-old boy at a wedding. All this means Vanquish did exactly what all Platinum Games titles do, make you look really bloody cool even if you're rubbish at the game. And this is arguably the coolest of the lot. Amazing combat, kick-ass weapons, ridiculous bosses, a man that can catch a rocket in mid-air. If that doesn't make it a cult favourite, I don't know what does. Entry number 5 is a cult classic I never played for the longest time, even though I owned it, and that's because Zone of the Enders, an achingly cool mech-on-mech combat adventure, came with a playable demo of Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty. I remember counting down the days until Zone of the Enders release. I marked it on my calendar, I took a sickie from school, all for a game I didn't actually play. Poor old Zone of the Enders must have felt so betrayed. Here I was, carrying it across the threshold into my bedroom as if I'd just married the disc, only to cast it aside for the attractive demo nestled just behind. I mean, come on, the demo was really good. You could shoot bottles and they broke in real time and everything. But when I finally decided to give Zone of the Enders a go, man, I felt bad. This poor, neglected, excellent game that had come free with my £40 demo of Metal Gear Solid 2 was, surprise, surprise, amazing. It was so good I was even able to talk about mechs at school without having my underpants yoinked over my forehead. It was immediate and slick and utterly gorgeous, and spawned an even better sequel that you can now buy together with the original, all HD'd up on PS3. So, if like me you owned Zone of the Enders but never played it, now's your chance. Get it done. Next up, we've got a game I bet loads of you haven't even heard of. We're talking about a PS1 RPG favourite of mine called Jade Cocoon. I knew I wanted this as soon as I played the demo that came free with official PlayStation magazine, a turn-based fantasy role-player where you had to capture monsters with a magic flute and then make them fight each other. Give it to me now. I remember begging my mum for this in my local games exchange. I also remember seeing my school friend Terry Gibbs in the shop too, clutching a copy of the original Punch the Bad Man, telling me my game looked rubbish. Ha ha ha, Terry, I thought. Little do you know my game has bug monsters in it you can tame with a magic flute. Does your game have that? No, it just has punching and men. If anything, the sequel, Jade Cocoon 2, was even better, allowing you to control 8 monsters simultaneously on a rotating grid known as the Beast Amulet. This created one of my favourite battle systems ever, a lightning-paced game of rock, paper, scissors with monsters that merged together, evolved and became totally badass. If you missed it, you missed out. Final entry then, and this is possibly the coolest game I've ever played, even though I was utterly wretched at it. G-Police. What a game. A gorgeous fusion of cyberpunk sci-fi and some of the best dogfighting gameplay I can remember. It was the intro CG movie that sticks in my mind the most. The music was incredible, their setup epic, and this spaceship here, just look at it and listen. Oh, that takes me back. I was 10 when I first played this, so didn't have a clue what was going on. Fancy words like corporations bounced off my idiot child brain like laser fire off a deflector shield, but it didn't matter because when I was in the cockpit, HUD flashing before me, rockets loaded and ready to fire, I was in heaven. I never got past the 3rd level either, I don't think, but I didn't care. I was happy just flying around shooting civilians. The ships in G-Police exploded so beautifully, it was like poetry written with fire. My sister would control the guns and I'd do the piloting. We'd pick a random victim, tail him for a bit, and then blam! Blast his machine to bits. The sound of it. Please tell me you played G-Police. If not, then it's on PS3 under PS1 Classics. You need this game in your life. So there we are, 7 cult video game classics you've probably never played. Let us know in the comments if you can think of any we've missed, or if you actually did play some of these. Leave us a like to help make the channel strong, and subscribe if you haven't already for more videos like this one every Friday. Thanks for watching.